What's going on, guys, and welcome to part 2 of how to be an officer Army ROTC. In the first video, if you guys missed it, I did it a while ago. It is basically where I talk about how you actually enroll in ROTC, and then I also made a video with the Green to Gold program where I covered the Green to Gold program and how to enroll in that path to being an officer. And now for the Army ROTC part 2 in this video, I'm going to talk about once you're actually enrolled, kind of what you do as a cadet all the way up until you get commissioned. So you've watched my last video and you know how to actually enroll in ROTC. If you don't know how to enroll in ROTC, I definitely recommend that you check that video out. But you're in ROTC, whether you're an MS1, an MS2, an MS3, or an MS4, you're going to be learning something different, right? So you're going to be joining ROTC preferably as an MS1, and if you don't join ROTC as an MS1, what you're going to have to do is go to this summer training called Basic Camp, which is literally the Army cadet version of basic training. It's only a month long and you go through it over the summer, and currently it's at Fort Knox in Kentucky. And the reason it's kind of like basic training for cadets and stuff like that is because you're actually going to have drill sergeants when you're there. So if you join Army ROTC and you maybe were in college already and you're not going to be able to do the full 4 years, you can go to this basic camp thing over the summer, and that will allow you to not have to do all 4 years of Army ROTC and only have to do a minimum of 2 years. And so at basic camp, again, it is basically like a basic training. You're going to learn some similar things and you're going to have drill sergeants. And from what I've seen from basic camp is it's definitely, it's very similar to basic training from what I've seen, but it's not as strict or as bad of an environment as basic training was. And just real quick, if you don't know what MS 1, 2, 3, and 4 is, that's basically your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior levels in ROTC. And I will cover very quickly what you learn as an MS1 and an MS2 because it's really not that complicated stuff. So if you are prior service or you get to go to this basic camp, it basically negates what you learn in the first 2 years of ROTC because it's just very basic Army stuff. The first year as an MS1, you're gonna be learning very basic just Army terminology. You're gonna learn how to march. You're gonna learn all this very, very basic stuff. As an MS2, your sophomore year, you're gonna kind of get into some squad stuff. You might be getting into some tactics, just very small, just an introduction, doing a little bit of land nav and stuff like that, because as an MS1, you might go out and do land nav, but you also might have somebody mentoring you while you do it. As an MS2, you might be maybe mentoring an MS1 doing land nav because maybe you've done it a time or two before. So it's just another step up. And then once you become an MS3 or a junior, by this time most of the cadets in Army ROTC are contracted cadets. And what that means is when you contract in ROTC, because again, if you watched my last video, you know that you can take ROTC and you don't have to commit to the Army. Like, you can just take it as an elective course. But once you contract, it's kind of like enlisting into the military, to where you're literally going to be signing a contract saying you're going to do all these requirements, you're going to meet all these Army ROTC graduation requirements, to where when you graduate, you're going to be a second lieutenant in the Army, Army National Guard, or the Army Reserves, whichever one you decide to pick or you get given to you. So when you get contracted as a cadet, you will get issued a CAC, a Common Access Card, a little ID card that the military gets, and you are officially kind of a part of the military now. Just like when you enlist before and you go in and swear in, you're also going to swear in as a cadet and you're going to take an oath. So cadets are actually part of the military, contrary to what a lot of freaking people think. Cadets have an actual rank in the Army's rank structure, right? They fall above a command sergeant major and below a warrant officer. So they're like in a little weird area to where they're higher than enlisted soldiers, but they're below a warrant officer. So you're supposed to treat cadets like officers, but in my personal opinion, you can kind of just treat us like, if you wanted to, like a specialist or something, right? Because we're just learning officers. We're training to become officers. That's literally what ROTC is for, is you're training to become an officer. And going to the MS3 level and the MS4 level, you're going to start learning a little bit more in-depth and more detailed stuff. So as a MS3, you're going to be learning platoon operations, and a platoon is basically a group of around about 40 people or so, and then how you're going to lead that group. And then currently myself, I'm in MS4, I'm in my last year, I'll commission this May, and what we're doing is a lot of admin stuff. So a lot of really high level, you know, thinking of like how we're going to, you know, look at the big picture and how the big picture is going to and fit all the pieces together. So like the higher up in the MS level you're going to go, the higher up in your training as far as the Army structure is going to be, because you're going to start as maybe an MS1 or an MS2 and you're going to learn team and squad stuff. Then once you get to MS3, your junior year, you're going to learn platoon tactics, and then MS4, your senior year, you're going to be looking at more company level and higher tactics. Now, before I go into kind of like the average day or what it kind of looks like to train as a cadet, I do want to cover some of the opportunities that ROTC gives you when you're going through the ROTC program, because a lot of people ask me when they ask about ROTC with getting, you know, airborne or something in your contract once you graduate and all that stuff. And something that a lot of people don't know is that you can actually go to Army schools, airborne school, air assault school. You could go to like sapper school. You can go to mountain warfare school. You go to like a scuba diving school. You can go to all of these schools when you're enrolled in ROTC before you graduate, before you're a second lieutenant. So you could go to airborne school as a cadet, right? So that is definitely a possibility for you. So if you're worried about getting airborne or something in your contract once you graduate or whatever, don't really worry about that. See if you can get it as a cadet while you're going through the process, and you'll just do that over the summer. So one summer, whenever a slot is available, you could go to airborne school over the summer. That'll take about a month, have your summer time and whatever, and then come back to school. And that's definitely a possibility for a lot of people. The only caveat to this, which is similar to the whole contracting thing, is there's only so many slots available for each one of these schools, right? So a specific school, a specific college may only have one position available or one slot for the summer to send somebody to airborne school and to send somebody to air assault school. So if you want to get these slots, basically you want to make sure that you've got a good PT score. You want to make sure you're doing all these things to be put in the right position, so when a opportunity presents itself, hey, you can do it. You know, you might be lucky and you might go to a school that's got a whole lot of students that gets issued a lot of money and a lot of, you know, opportunities and slots and stuff like that, to where you might get, there might be 10 slots for airborne school and there might only be like 8 cadets that want to do it. So you'll have a 100% chance of being able to go to airborne school. So that's definitely a possibility. There's multiple different schools. Those are just like some of the 4 main ones that you can go to as a cadet. Another possibility for schools that you can go to, or training sessions or whatever that you can go to over the summer as a cadet, are like CT, LT, and then some other things that have weird acronyms. But basically, for one example, you could go to a basic training company and actually kind of train there with the soldiers, and you're not a like soldier like training there, but you're kind of just shadowing the drill sergeants, shadowing the officers, just kind of hanging around. So for those of you guys who are going to basic training, you might see a cadet, if you go over the summer, just floating around and kind of looking, and that's what they're doing. They're just doing their summer training, kind of shadowing. You can also go to trainings over the summer where you go to an actual unit and job shadow them. You can also go and visit different countries. So there's a lot of different possibilities, a lot more than I want to cover in a video, especially in detail in this video, but there's a lot of schools, a lot of learning possibilities, a lot of things, and traveling as well that you can do as a cadet when you're going through college. So I've told you some of the things that you're going to learn and some of the opportunities that you're going to have when you're in ROTC. So what is like the amount of time that you're going to have to dedicate to this, right? Is it going to be like a full-time thing? Like, are you not going to have maybe like another job? Are you going to have a totally different college lifestyle when you're going through ROTC? Or is it just going to be like a little part-time thing? And you know, because it's basically just a class, it is just definitely like a part-time thing. It's not going to take up a lot of your time, especially if you're not planning on contracting or if you're not contracted yet, because a lot of times your ROTC cadre and stuff, they'll make things mandatory for contracted cadets. So if you're not contracted yet, meaning probably if you're not an MS3 or an MS4, then you're probably not going to have to do it. So if they're saying they're going to do like a ruck march or something, right? and they say all contracted cadets have to go. Well, if you're contracted, then you're gonna have to go, and that's gonna be something you have to do. But if you're an MS1 or an MS2 and you're not contracted yet, you don't necessarily have to do that. But because ROTC is literally just a course, it's a class that you can take at college, it is going to have a set time every week when you're going to have to meet. It's probably going to be just a 1 day a week class that's about 2.5 or 2 hours and 45 minutes long. I think, at least for my college, the 1 day a week classes are, I think, 2 hours and 45 minutes. And so every week you got to go to that. And then once a month, you're going to have a lab, right? So this is similar to drills. If you're in the Army Reserves or the National Guard, you have a drill once a month. Well, in ROTC, you're gonna have a lab once a month. And what you do there literally just kind of depends on where you are in the semester, where you are in the MS level. So the lower MS levels, MS1s and MS2 are gonna be doing some very low level, just base knowledge stuff. MS3s are going to be basically doing platoon operations, platoon tactics, learning, getting ready for their advanced camp summer training that they're going to be going to. Because what you have to do in ROTC between your MS3 and your MS4 years, which is your junior year and your senior year, there is a summer training that you have to go to, which is like the final big requirement. Currently it's called advanced camp. I went to it this past summer, and it's pretty difficult. It's much more difficult than I thought. But for your entire junior year in ROTC, you're basically going to be getting ready for that. And then during these labs, or really the entire senior year as an MS4, the MS4s in ROTC are basically, they're not the instructors, but they're really making a lot of decisions. You have the cadre, you have the officers, you have the NCOs who are actually teaching the courses and stuff, but then they divvy out a lot of the tasks, and the majority of the tasks really, to the MS4s, the seniors, to create the PT plans, to create the plans for the labs, what kind of supplies and personnel and stuff do we need. So that's all gonna be stuff that the MS4s are going to be doing, and it's gonna be kind of their job on top of their schoolwork. So the higher up in the MS levels you go, the more time it's going to take, but you're basically gonna have one class, and you're one class a week, and you're going to have your labs. And in addition to all of that, you're going to have PT in the mornings. And this is mandatory. It's like, if you're not contracted, it's definitely not mandatory. If you are contracted and you don't go to PT in the mornings, which is for our school 3 days a week, it's kind of like, it's definitely frowned upon if you don't go to PT. As far as the homework and all the stuff, the take home work and stuff you're gonna have to do at home, it's really kind of minimal. You're not gonna be writing a crap ton of papers. You're not gonna be doing a whole bunch of projects. You might do a presentation every semester. You might do a small paper or something like that, but it's not going to be really as extensive, like as far as homework goes, as a lot of your other classes in college. So I wouldn't really worry about that too much. You know, the tests and all that stuff, again, you don't really need to worry about it too much. It's more of like the experience you're going through and getting the training you need. You're going to the classes, you're going to the labs, and then every now and then there'll be an FTX, where there's a field training exercise, where for one of your labs, it might be a 2 or a 3 day event, where, again, like a drill in the Army Reserves or the National Guard, you're gonna go out to, you know, to the field or something, if it's an FTX, and you're going to basically practice or go over whatever it is that you're at your current MS level. So that's Army ROTC and what you do in a nutshell. But there's one last thing that I want to talk about, and it's definitely the most important thing when it comes to Army ROTC, and that is picking your branch and how you get selected for that branch. When you enlist into the Army as an enlisted soldier, you literally get to go to the recruiter's office and you get to tell him, hey, I want to do this MOS. I want to have airborne in my contract, right? You get to literally select which MOS you want. Now granted, a lot of recruiters will be like, oh, this job's not available now, why don't you go for this job? You can wait a couple weeks, you could wait a month, you could wait a certain amount of time, and that job will come up. So you could, as long as you qualify for it, pick the MOS that you want. But for officers, it's not the same. For officers, you select a branch, and what a branch is, it's kind of like a category in the Army. So for myself, I used to be a 25 Bravo, which is a information technology specialist. That MOS falls under the signal branch. So now that I'm going to be a signal officer, my MOS is going to be 25 Alpha, but that job as a signal officer is over all of the 25 series MOSs. So I'll be over the 25 Bravos, the 25 Deltas, the 25 uniforms, the 25 Sierras. All of those MOSs a signal officer is in charge of. So they categorize all of the branches, and then when you're an officer, you are in charge of kind of that category or branch. Now, how do you get selected for this branch? I might make a more in-depth video on this. If you do want me to do that, I could definitely make a very much more in-depth video on how you get selected in this whole process, because it's pretty complicated. So let me know down in the comments if you want me to do that. But basically, here's how it's gonna go as far as you getting told what branch you're gonna have, picking what branch you're gonna have. When you're going through ROTC, the entire time you're going to be graded, right? On your personality, your leadership skills, your literal grade, your PT score, a lot of the extracurricular activities you're gonna do. There's going to be this list called the OML list, OML. I don't know what that stands for. I just know that the OML list is a list from number 1 to the last person of all of the cadets in your class across the nation, across the entire nation. All of the classes or cadets in your graduation group are going to be on this OML list, and it's going to be ranked again from the first person to the last person, and that is how they're going to be picking your branch. And when you're going through ROTC, your junior year, so your MS3 year, what you're going to do is you're going to order from number 1 to, I think it's like 20 or something, I really don't know, but it's like 1 to 20. You're going to order all of the branches that you want, your favorite one to your least favorite one, and they're going to kind of go off of that. So hopefully you'll get your number 1, hopefully maybe you'll get your number 2 or number 3, preferably you don't get anything beyond that. So you're going to really pick your top 3, and hopefully you're going to get one of those, because what's going to happen is you're going to submit that list. They're going to know what you want and everything, and then on the OML list, right? On the OML list, that is going to decide which branch you're going to get. So if you're really high up on that list, so you have a good GPA, you have good reviews, there's these things called blue cards, which is kind of like reviews of you as a person, right? So you're gonna get these cards, right? So all this information about you, the things that you've done, your PT score, just everything is going to be submitted. And that's going to determine where you're at on the list. And when your senior year comes around, there's literally going to be a computer algorithm, whatever you want to call it, a computer algorithm that is going to go through the list, the OML list. They're going to look at your OML score. They're going to look at your branch choices, the preferences that you have, and it is going to assign you a branch, right? There's not going to be a person that picks it. There's not going to be a person that like looks at your resume and is like, huh, this person, you know, they look really good for this job or whatever. It's not going to work out like that, right? So if you're going to go active duty, you want to try and get really high up on that OML list, which means that you need to have a good GPA, you need to have a good PT score, you need to do extracurricular activities, you need to really participate in ROTC and go to the PTs in the mornings and all that stuff, right? So if you're going active duty, it's going to be more competitive, because most people choose active duty for their first pick, because you also get to pick the branch. You can pick whether you want to go Army active duty, you want to go Army National Guard, or the Army Reserves. You get to pick that. Most people will pick active duty as their first choice. For me personally, I knew that I wanted to go Army Reserves, so I picked ROTC or Army Reserves as my first choice. So that is kind of how you're going to be given or pick your branch as an officer in Army ROTC, right? It is, you pick your choices, but then they also kind of tell you what you're gonna get. So you only have just a little bit of say-so in that. So if you're really low on that list, it's not very likely that you're gonna get your number 1 or number 2 pick. So keep that in mind when you're going through ROTC. But I'm pretty sure I covered everything as far as ROTC, the lifestyle, what you do, some of the opportunities that you have, and then on top of that, how you actually pick your branch in Army ROTC. It was definitely a longer one, so if you made it to the end of this video, make sure you hit that like button. That would be awesome. I really hope you guys did enjoy it. If you learned something, that's also great. Leave any comments down below. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can follow me on social media and ask me anything there if you want to. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys later.